Welcome back. Now, in what looks like a thorough self-cleansing in the fight against corruption and abuse of office, President Muhammadu Buhari last week ordered the suspension of the Secretary to the federal government, Babachi Lawal, and the Director of the National Intelligence Agency, Ayo Oke. According to a release from Buhari spokesperson Femi Adesina, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation was suspended over the controversy surrounding the award of contracts under the Presidential Initiative on the Northeast. Now, this involves the issue of the 278 million naira alleged to have been used to cut grass by a company the SGF has an interest in. Ambassador Ayodele Oke, on his part, that's the director of the NIA, DG, I should say, of the NIA, his own suspension was in connection now with the foreign and local currencies recently recovered by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, at a flat on Osborne Road, Ikoyi in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. The cash, which is in excess of 15 billion naira, has been generating controversy in government circles since the money was discovered by the EFCC. The cash was actually lodged in an apartment in Lagos Island, and of course it became orphaned with no one claiming it until the National Intelligence Agency owned up to it. A three-man committee headed by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and also that committee includes the Attorney General of the Federation, that's Abubakar Malami, and the National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, is to investigate the issue. That committee was actually set up by President Buhari, and the committee has 14 days to submit its reports, while both Lawal and Oke would, of course, remain suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. Now, the most senior officers in their offices were asked to take charge of their responsibilities. The investigation is to inquire into the circumstances in which the NIA came in possession of the funds and how and by whose or which authority the funds were made available to the NIA, and to establish whether or not there's been a breach of the law or security procedure in obtaining custody and use of the funds. Now, as for the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, of course, the committee is to investigate whether it's indeed true that a company in which he has an interest in actually got a contract for the clearing of grass in the northeast of the country. And of course, it's been alleged that that contract was not actually awarded in the first. The contract was actually not executed in the first place. Joining me now to talk about this issue is Monday Onyekachi Ubani, who is a legal practitioner, and of course Deba Deniro, who is the president of the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACOL. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. First, let me start with you, Mr. Deniro. Do you feel relieved now that the president has decided to wield the big stick and has decided, so to speak, to turn the searchlight now on his own government?
Yes, yes, I feel relieved, because I have always been sympathizing with the president, because the other time the wife accused him of being caged by a cabal, and we knew then that she was not joking. We knew also that he found it very difficult taking his own decision the way he would have wanted it, because we believe that he's sincere with the fight against corruption. We believe that the VP is also sincere, at the fighting against corruption. We also have reasons to believe that Ibrahim Magu, was also, he's still also sincere about fighting against corruption. But there are some corrupt elements. We have always been saying it. We have said it on your program before, that there are corrupt elements within the cabinet, within the presidency, within all arms and tiers of government. Do you
think he should have suspended the Secretary to the Government of the Federation long before now?
Exactly. He ought to have suspended him long before now, because of the when you look at the report of the investigative panel that was set up by the National Assembly that indicted him from all fronts, then you know that for a Buhari whose name typifies anti-corruption personality, You don't want him to look at that man for a second time. Said we expected him to say, please go until you clear your name, from all of these baggages. Then you cannot work with me. But he cannot take, a unilateral decision. It is obvious that there are so many people that needed so much convincing. That's why. But that is, people say better late than never. Babachir Lawal deserves what he has got, and the arrogance is exuding. It's even a slap on the face of Nigerians. Okay, despite all of these baggages, still, as a matter of fact, questioning who is presidency, where he works, and he claims that he's part of government, and that is unfortunate.
Mr. Bani, I have to ask you this. I mean, of course, it's a belated action from the president, the suspension of the secretary to the government of the federation, and of course, not belated when it comes to the suspension of the DG of the NIA. But let's talk about the suspension. This suspension now, whether we like it or not, these are just suspensions. The president has decided to set up a committee to investigate this. That committee, of course, as we all know, headed by the vice president. We do not know the verdict that committee will return. If the verdict eventually becomes a positive verdict, so to speak, it obviously means this men will definitely come back to their positions.
Well, that's what it seems. But the point is, it's a process, it's a procedure. Especially when somebody is alleged to have committed any crime, the law allows that individual to be given what we call fair hearing. Even God himself did it with Adam in the Garden of Eden. So what the president has actually initiated now, which is the right step, is to give them an opportunity to give an explanation to those things we consider malfeasance in an infraction. So let them be heard. And I believe that the vice president, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria and a professor of law and the vice president of this great nation, will be in a position to do a good job. He will not in any way be influenced by any factor whatsoever. He has nothing to lose. He has everything to gain in doing the writing. He heard them, and if there is anyone that is culpable, he should be bold enough to make an appropriate recommendation. So it's a process, and as Mr. Debo has rightly said, better late than never.
And of course, we do not expect that this whole thing will just end up with the investigation. If at the end of the day there's any indictment, yes, there should be another step. Yes,
another step is that you now recommend that they should be prosecuted. But I also know that, at times like this, you do what you call soft landing, but you have to look at the mood of the nation. Would the nation, actually approve any soft landing for any of these persons? So it's important that they take, an accurate step, and as I said earlier, the president must be very sensitive to the yearnings and aspirations of those who elected him. There are people who actually believe so much in the president, Buhari, that he will fight corruption to a standstill, and he should not in any way look right center. He should look straight and give this particular fight the fight of his life, because as he said when he was campaigning, it's either we kill corruption or corruption will kill Nigeria.
The report on Babachir Lawal is enough
by the Senate.
By the Senate is enough to send him to the ICPC, for prosecution or further investigation if there's any stone they have left unturned. Then, in the case of Ayodele, I mean, the evidence is there. Yeah, the wife is there.
The DG of the NIA.
The DG of NIA. And the wife is not a staff of NIA. Why is she managing a money meant for covert operation for the NIA of
when you say the wife, so, now, what exactly has the wife got to do with this? Because
I mean,
because the name from the information we're gathering.
From the information we gather, that she owns the apartment, the 7B apartment where the money was found. And whoever has the apartment should, cannot say that she doesn't know who owns the content.
The NIA DG has actually come out to say that money actually belongs to the
NIA. So that is where I think that they don't have to waste the precious time of Vice President, who is very busy now, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the NSA, because the NIA ought to have reported to the NSA and the president. The president is supposed to be the chief security officer of the country. So if they do not know. What I expected the presidency to do was to issue these two people queries, and whatever they brought,
which of course would have been done.
Will have been done. They should just
no, but
hand them over to the right agency.
That's the reason why this investigative panel, so to speak, has been set up, because that panel, we understand, has issued these individuals queries, and that they will be invited to explain whatever they know. But does this preclude the EFCC from continuing with its investigation? I mean, because this panel has been set up.
Actually, for Babachir Lawal, no, it's more of a case for ICPC, you know. But for NIA guy, because it involves financial crimes, it is also economic crime. Remember that people have been shopping for forex. You need to do legitimate, you know, business. They couldn't get, and somebody is stockpiling it somewhere. It's like hoarding. Now, how did he get it in? It should be a trans-border thing, because the CBN has denied any knowledge of issuing that amount of money, and he didn't declare it to NFIU. Okay, neither did he put the presidency, the EFCC, or any other agency in confidence. Now, that he has committed that is more of economic sabotage. Okay, and that is why simpliciter, it should have been discarded. I mean, handed over to the EFCC.
Doesn't it surprise you that the president himself and the president himself would not have known about this? I mean, that an agency was keeping such huge amount of money.
The president was not aware. I learned, you know, from what I've been reading online. The president was not briefed. The National Security Advisor was also not briefed. Not even the EFCC, as rightly pointed out, you know, was briefed. But according to the information, the money was approved 2 years ago. So the man has so much explanation to do. Now, if the money was approved 2 years ago, when was it released? For that's it. Who approved it? How much was actually advanced? Now, what operation, you know, were you using it for? The covert operation that will cost 15 billion. That our hospitals are not developed is as a result of things like
covert operation can actually cost.
Yeah, whatever covert operation you have, you know, we need to know what it is, because you cannot just use omnibus word covert operation in order to steal Nigeria's money. Why people cannot eat 1 square meal a day? Why nobody has a decent accommodation? Educational sector has collapsed. We don't have any energy, no light. Factories are folding up and, you know, leaving Nigeria, and are telling me you are using 15 billion for covert operation that is only known to one man alone and others. So I think we need proper explanation, because when I begin to hear things like this, I get bothered. I get angered. I get provoked.
Covert operation.
Whatever name you call it.
They could carry out covert operation, but it should be that covert operation that will be known to the chief security officer of the country. Even if it's expensive, as long as it's going to bail us out of some stranglehold of maybe whatever they think is injurious to the health of the entire nation. But they needed to have, I mean, informed the president, the NSA, or the, I mean, if you are dealing with...
And then why wasn't this covert operation carried out for 2 years now?
Exactly. He's saying that it's more security conscious.
Released all this while.
So who released this one now?
I'm not holding.
Where is this one coming from now? Central Bank has denied knowledge of the money. So, and that money is wrapped in a manner that shows it came from Central Bank of Nigeria. So who released this money? Was this money being carried about for the 2 years it was released? So these are questions that the presidency wants to find out. And I think that there's nothing wrong in setting up this panel.
Then do we have more of such hall in some other places, you know, because they have to find out.
And we expect the report to come out in 14 days, and the expectation is that the findings would be made public, because I mean, I don't know if that is going to happen, but that's just by the way. Let's talk about the fight against corruption by the EFCC. And I would have to start with you. We've seen the EFCC, the government, so to speak, the anti-corruption fight of the government, not really the EFCC now. We've seen the government lost, well, just a number of cases. And it's not as if it's the end of those cases anyway. Do you think the fact that one or two cases were lost is enough reason to say the government is losing the fight against corruption.
Which of the two cases?
I mean,
now?
for instance, the case against the Justice Ademola, for instance, you have
that case
DSS.
was initiated by not by EFCC.
That's
no, I'm not talking about the EFCC fight now. I'm talking about the government's
government.
anti-corruption fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have the case of Justice Ademola. You also have that case, of course, involving the former First Lady. And well, maybe one or two
Let's
cases.
analyze these things properly and educate Nigerians, because we don't want people to operate under ignorance or sentiment. The Justice Ademola's case, the prosecution has laid its evidence, and then they made a no-case submission, and the court ruled, discharged, not acquitted.
Not acquitted.
Now, the entire judicial process has not been exhausted. The government has gone on.
So we cannot say.
So we cannot say that the judiciary, the entire thing is a failure. There's a lot of narrative. There are a lot of stories going out there that these guys are putting up in order to actually discourage this fight. And we should not in any way be carried away. We should not in any way be attracted to their bait. We should be intelligent enough to know what is going on. That this fight is a fight of our life, and all of us must join hands. Irrespective of where the government is making any mistake, if there are deficiencies, we should correct the government and say, this is where you should strengthen your hand over this fight. But for us to buy all these stories that, government is not fighting corruption and all that, they are using this to actually discourage Nigerians. As I said earlier, the entire judicial process has not been exhausted. You still have Court of Appeal, you still have the Supreme Court. And of course, in all these processes, you may have a reversal. It has happened several times. So we cannot conclude that the fight has been lost. As I said earlier, there are people that are being paid to ensure that they rubbish this fight. And they're ready to do it. And they have the mass media. They have the social media at their disposal. But for those of us who understand what is going on, we should not in any way be moved. And I advise the president to be very strong in this fight. My only problem I have with him is that sometimes he's very slow in taking decisions. Maybe because he's now in democracy, he's learning to be a Democrat. But I tell you, it requires some level of, dictatorial, tendency for him to succeed, because Nigeria is a complex country. There are certain things that requires him to be very fast and bold and very courageous. You don't take time. Most times, those time lapses can also be very devastating. So there are, he has made some mistakes in, and all that, but we need to correct him. But for me to sit down here and say, that fight is lost, we are not doing anything and all that, for God's sake, if not for President Buhari, I would not know that one individual alone can keep 15 billion in his house. If not President Buhari, I would not know that somebody up there in Kaduna will keep some certain amount of money in a village, in a remote village that is in millions, that even the Americans now are envying us. They are the owners of dollars. I know that somebody like Big Gate cannot keep more than $10,000 in his house. But Nigerians are keeping millions
of dollars.
And don't be surprised that tomorrow we hear that Nigerians are keeping billions of dollars in their private homes. It's possible. So that the Americans are envying us. It has never happened anywhere. And that's why we should get worried about what is going on in this country and get angry with the system and correct this country and make it to be a country all of us should be proud of.
Let me have your own take on this. I mean, are you bothered? Are you in any way bothered that the government might be losing the fight?
No, the government is not losing any fight. As a matter of fact, none of the cases have been lost.
Exactly.
When you look at the Patience Jonathan thing, the interim forfeiture was reversed. Okay, that yes, she could have access to the fund, but she still has explaining to do at the end of the day, not that she has been discharged. Then when you look at that of Orubebe, now of course I mean, when you see Nole prosecute, it doesn't mean that he has defended the allegation against him. The judge, Justice Ademola thing, Justice Ademola has not denied that they didn't find money in his house. He didn't deny that they didn't find arms and ammunition in his house. The judge, the trial judge, is it trial judge you call it?
Yeah, the trial judge. Yes.
Now acted as a defense counsel in his court. Okay, because the ruling of Lone prosecute doesn't have to take so long because there are
no case submission. Actually,
on no case submission. What was he doing? That is why he's going to fail at the level of appellate.
Well, we just wait and see.
What I want is that the president should be firm and he should pander to the advice from Professor Sagi, the leader of PACAC, that any lawyer or judge that conspire with a suspect to escape justice and they found out should be treated as an accomplice. And their licenses should be withdrawn. Because when what some of them are doing, let me tell you,
okay, finish. I will
what some of them are doing
Yes.
is that as soon as they apprehend some of these looters, they go on air. They can even pay you to appear on your program to advertise their trade, that they know how to circumvent the course of justice. And they are targeting, you know, a percentage of the loot, knowing full well that these looters are richer than the country itself, and that they can pay several times over when EFCC is just managing to prosecute its own case.
There are a couple of sound bites I want you to take a listen to, but let me just quickly give you the opportunity. You said you want to defend very quickly.
It's important we follow due process in this fight against corruption. Yes. It's also important that any person that is accused of any crime is given the opportunity to
defend themselves.
Yes.
And then be defended by a lawyer.
Yes.
So no lawyer should be scared in defending. But in doing that, we must also do it within the precinct of the law. That's the most important thing. We must operate within the law. Let's save Nigeria. All of us must be interested in saving Nigeria. So I don't want a situation where the president will be advised or to sanction any lawyer for defending any person.
No, for defending.
No, they must defend. And every person accused of any crime must be given that fair hearing. By,
what happens?
There's a sound bite I want you to take a listen to. It's really about the challenge that the EFCC, for instance, is going through, and even by extension, other anti-corruption agencies as well might be going through in this fight against corruption. Let's just take a listen now to the head of the legal unit of the EFCC, what he has to say about some of these challenges that the EFCC and other anti-corruption agencies might be going through.
None of the agencies can adequately say they have the wherewithal to carry out their functions. He talked about forensic lab, for instance. I'm happy to say that that's one area in which, through the support of donor agencies like UNODC, EFCC has made an headway. There is an interesting issue that occurred one time. I won't say the name of the agency. During the prosecution of the Boko Haram war, there was an issue they were looking for. And that was when even we realized that we were far over and above a lot of them. This agency that had been long in existence before the EFCC had to even come to the EFCC for forensic analysis of a critical component of something which was necessary to the arrest of the masterminds of the Boko Haram. That shows you how over the years, as a result of underfunding and, well, from revelations from the arms gates, even where fundings are coming in, these fundings are not allocated to the right area, how it has hampered investigation and prosecution by these agencies. Every day in this country, I can tell you that EFCC, within all our zones, will receive an average of between 100 to perhaps 300 petitions. Everybody wants EFCC to be like FBI. Yes, good. FBI has an air fleet, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, air fleet, that even our national airline, if we have any, cannot boast of. That is one single investigative agency in the United States of America, boasting of an air fleet. Even the presidential air fleet does not have the kind of whatever that they have. How many, the Nigerian police, which is the mother organization from which all these things, how many aircraft do they have at their disposal? Yes, you want the Nigerian police to perform the same magic, akin or better than that of FBI.
I mean, funding is a very big issue because fact is that every Nigerian wants this anti-corruption fight to be fought, you know, with vigor and all of that. But to be candid, it costs money to fight corruption. It costs money, for instance, to get good lawyers to prosecute some of these cases. You heard him say that on the average, the EFCC gets about 100 petitions, you know, almost every day or so, or every week. And then, whether we like it or not, if we are not devoting money to the fight against corruption, there's just no way we can make any headway.
I will tell you that, look, up to last year, the EFCC does not have up to 2,500, operatives for 170 million people. Now, they do not have any insurance cover. I mean, in the sense of it. So, meaning that their investigators are not, they are not covered. They are not secured themselves. They are not protected. Then there are prosecutors. They do not have resources that the corrupt elements have to hire, high-flying prosecutors. Then when you look at training and equipment, they are just performing magic for the little they have been able to do. So when the same thing, most of our can be the first chairman of ICPC has complained since a very long time that ICPC was underfunded. That was like a toothless bulldog. Okay, because you give them all the powers under the act, but you do not give them the necessary resources to perform the duties you want them to perform. How would they go about it? They are just using the, maybe what you call body language of the president. Up till now, they are not yet as strengthened as they have been promised.
Let me get your take on that.
Well, the funding is very critical. It's very key. There is nothing you can do in this modern time.
You can't be chasing millions with empty hands.
Somebody said that sometimes it is deliberate. Even if the government is not serious about fighting corruption, he will underfund those agencies. That undertake to fight it. Because most time also, it can boomerang. Most of them also have one thing or one case or the other to answer. So if you strengthen this agency, that means that you can be a victim tomorrow. So they deliberately, and I'm sure I know the agency the EFCC man was talking about that came, you are fighting Boko Haram and then you don't have the equipment, you have to come to EFCC and all that. It's deliberate. But I also say that despite these problems also, issue of funding, do you know that when funds are also made available to some of these agencies also, corruption keeps, comes up.
That should be no excuse
at
all.
It comes up.
When the corruption comes up, you deal
with it. What I'm saying, the money will also be eaten by those people in charge.
No, I mean,
and they're not using it to...
There's no doubt that can happen, but it should be no excuse not to give.
Funding is an issue. I agree with you. If you really want these agencies to really succeed, you must fund them properly. They must engage in training and retraining. The necessary equipment, all the necessary machines must be bought, because you cannot succeed in this modern time in investigation when you don't have the necessary, especially when things are being fought now by machine, ICT. So he must be exposed. So he must have the money. So budgeting and making sure that they have enough money to fight this fight is something that I agree with you.
Let me just quickly take another sound bite and get your reaction to it. This is from a senior advocate of Nigeria and human rights activist Femi Falana. Let's take a listen to him.
I've largely left the fight against corruption for the government to, wage. I think it is high time. The battle was owned by the Nigerian people. The fight against corruption has to be owned by the Nigerian people, particularly the victims of corruption. Unless we do that, there's no way the government can succeed. No government can fight any war alone. Whether it's a war against terrorism or against corruption, the people have to be mobilized. And it is the whistleblowing policy of the government that has so far attracted Nigerians in the fight against corruption. And it has nothing to do with the reward. There are Nigerians who have given information to the government without asking for any reward. So I think the response of Nigerians to the whistleblowing policy so far is encouraging, is commendable. And I do hope that the government can take advantage of it to recover as much as possible, give encouragement, give protection to whistleblowers so that as much as possible can be recovered.
Well,
let me quickly get your take on that, because we...
first and foremost, when you talk about these whistleblowing policies, I believe that it is only the whistleblowers that are being compensated. How about the agency that actually
Well, that is their job.
That's what they say. Now, it is the job of Nigerians also to cooperate with the anti-corruption agencies to ensure that they succeed. So what we believe is that going after these criminals is an Herculean task. And they have told us that they are being underfunded. Why don't we make it possible for them to have a percentage of whatever they recover to also prosecute further war against the same problem?
You think that's a good idea?
And, well, issue of giving percentage, to the agency, well, I don't know how feasible, but if it is to actually help them to buy the necessary equipment, because capital investment in fighting crime is something that I will advocate at any point in time. But there's something that Mr. Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, said that is very key issue of making the fight to be people involved. Involvement of the people is very, very important for this fight. While there is some measure of success in this fight presently because this whistleblowing, because the people were involved. If the people get involved in a fight, that affect the entire country, you find out the measure, success rate.
Because without whistleblowing, we would not have
been people already.
Yes,
getting the people involved. That's what I'm talking about, structure. If Buhari leaves, what structure is he going to leave in place, to really continue this fight? Because we must actually win this war. As I said earlier, he has grown in leaps and bounds. And while other sectors are retarded, corruption has become an industry, and a successful industry.
And then the National Assembly has to pass an act on this whistle, because this is just a policy.
This is a policy.
The government decided to come up with this while waiting for the National Assembly.
We must insist.
The bill is
there. The bill is there. Even the court that we try all these high-profile cases also, the bill is also before the National Assembly. I don't know the reason why they have not even, looked toward that direction. So something we must insist must be done by the National Assembly to aid this fight, because without a structure, no matter all the things this man has recorded in terms of success, we will not be able to sustain it, if you don't have a structure.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you very much for your contributions. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, all you just need to do is log on to our website. It's at www.tv360nigeria.com. You'll find this program and lots more there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. The address is youtube.com/TV360Nigeria. Do subscribe to get more videos and updates. You can join us on Google+, of course. That's at TV360 Nigeria. Or like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 Online. Do follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at TV360 Online. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week.